All right, good morning. It is 9 o'clock and it is Thursday. The weather looks like it's going to be back to raining again. Very typical Northwest. I hope you guys are doing well. Always remember, if you guys need help with the homework, to shoot me an email or join me in my office hours. All of my office hours are in the morning. So you can always just come a little, come before class and get help. So I've had a couple of students coming in the last couple of weeks, and we're getting all our homework done, and it feels really good. So make sure you guys, if you need help, let me know. I can help you out. Okay. So what we're going to do today, this warm-up is reflecting on growth, and we're going to start 3 days on decay. And it's going to be the last thing that we're going to do for this trimester. So remember, our trimester is over on the 12th of March. Okay, so we're going to spend 3 days doing decay, and then just like we did growth, and then we're going to spend 3 days reviewing for our final. So 3 days doing decay, 3 days reviewing for the final. That's all we have left in this trimester. Okay, so we can do this, guys. We can do this. All right, so let's go over this warm-up, and yeah, that's what we're doing today. So we're doing exponential decay. All right, so taking a look at this, we have a formula. Okay, and hopefully you guys are getting really good at that, right? We have y equals a times 1 plus r to the t. Okay, so the y is our final amount, the a is our initial amount, the 1 represents, hey, right, we're keeping this initial amount a plus some percentage, right? And then t is our time. Okay, so we're given this equation. What is the initial amount? So you guys can just type that into chat. What do we got? What's our initial amount? Yeah, right. And everyone should be participating, right? Like, make sure everyone is participating. Everyone can type that in. Okay, and I like that people are doing a direct message, so that way, right? Like, even if you type the wrong thing, it's really not a big deal. Okay. So yeah, so the initial amount is 478, right? Now we don't have units on that, so we don't know what 478 is, right? Is it 478 people? Is it 478 bacteria? We don't know, but that's the initial amount. The initial amount is 478. Okay, so this next part, what is the percent rate of change? So we know it's 1 plus r. Well, so here's the 1, right? So if it's 1 plus r, so that would be like saying 1 plus 0.67. So what we got to do is we have to take this and get it to a percentage, because this is a decimal. So to do that, we're going to multiply it by 100, and we get the percent change is 67%. Okay, so again, we know in the inside here, it's 1 plus r. So if it's 1 plus r, everything that's not the 1, right, that's our decimal. So we take that times 100 and we get a percent. Okay, so hopefully you guys are doing okay with that. We doing okay with that? All right, you guys can let me know if you're not doing okay with that, and that would be good. Okay. What's the final amount after 10 years? Okay, so what we're going to do here is, this is going to be our t, right? This is going to be our t. So I'm going to take my equation. So I'm going to have here, let's do that in black, and then I'll put in the t. So we have y equals 478 times the quantity of 1.67, and then we're going to plug in 10 for my t, right? I don't have my yellow calculator today, so I'm going to use my other calculator. It's a bit overkill for what we're doing. So I'm going to take here, I'm going to take 478 and then times 1.67, and then I'm going to raise that to the 10th power. Okay, and then when I type it in, my screen will show me how it looks. So I have 478 times 1.672 to the 10. That's what I wanted. Okay, so then boom, there's my answer. So my answer here is going to be y equals
looks like 80,647.8. Okay.
So those are our answers. Does anybody have any questions or concerns? You guys doing okay with this? Is everybody? Are you guys doing okay? You guys awake? You guys doing? Yeah, okay. Thank you. It's good, guys, to get feedback because I need to know if we're not doing okay, what we need to focus on, right? Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Okay, move my calculator there. All right, so let's move on then, right? So today we're starting 3 days of decay. So what we're going to look at today is exponential decay. Okay, so exponential decay. And let's go ahead and compare that. Let's go ahead and compare exponential decay and exponential growth. Because I think it's going to be really important to be able to look at them side by side. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about decay, and growth is what we have been doing. Hey, and guys, I know it's especially with the pandemic, right? Like we lose that motivation to get pumped up for the day, right? But here we are, we can do it. I know you can because I know I'm here as well, and we can do this together. Okay, so exponential decay. So let's start out with exponential growth. That's what we did before. So our equation was y equals a times 1 plus r to the t. Okay. And we talked about this, right? This is our rate. This is our rate, right? This is time. This is the initial amount. And this is the final amount. Sorry, I kind of ran out of room there. So we have final amount, initial amount, the rate, and the time. Okay. Now, the key here, and this is what we're going to be talking about, that plus makes it growth. Okay. So that plus makes it growth. So our growth rate is going to be greater than 1. Okay. And this means bigger than. Okay, so for it to be exponential growth, the growth is bigger than 1, right? Bigger than 100%. Ooh, I didn't mean to do the 3 little dashes there. That's kind of cool. All right, so the growth is greater than 1. So bigger than. So the growth is bigger than 1. That's what makes it growth. Okay, so this is what we have been spending time on, right? So that's really important, right? This number in here is greater than 1, so we know it's growth. Okay, because exponential decay looks just like this, but there's such a slight difference that it throws a lot of people off. And that's why we're going to spend 3 days on it. Okay. So again, it's going to look exactly the same, except for one difference. And that's the minus. Okay. So growth, you see how it has the plus, it's going to be greater than 1. But here, with the minus, that's going to be decay. It's going to be less than 1, right? So this is smaller. Okay, and this is really the big takeaway, right? So with decay, we're going to get less, right? So, for example, let's talk about snow, right? So at first, the snow was growing on the ground, right? So you were like excited, the snow was growing. But then afterwards, right, this week started and the snow started decaying, right? The snow started going away, right? And so that's what's going to be happening. We're going to subtract our rate, okay? When we add our rate, it's growth. When we subtract our rate, it's decay, right? So the snow started melting, right? So it started decaying. So you can think of decay as going away, and growth we're adding, right? So subtracting, adding. That's what's going on here, okay? So, oh, and I should say, right, so this is the rate in decimal form. So it's rate in decimal. And this is rate in a decimal. Okay. Oops. I put an extra A in here. Sorry about that. So it's the rate in decimal. Okay, so this is what we're going to work on today. We're going to talk about decay. Now, like I said, this is the negative is going to give us all sorts of issues. So let's just start nice and slow and see how we can do this. The growth is really easy because it's just everything after the 1. But what we're going to see, because it's less than 1, the 1 is going to go away. And that confuses a lot of people. Okay, because the 1 will no longer be here because it's going to be less than 1, right? With the 1 being here, it's really easy to say, okay, everything that's not the 1 is the growth. Let me show you what I mean. We're going to start easy and then work our way a little bit more difficult. So let's do our first example. Okay, and this is going to be the easiest form of this. So let's say I have y equals 27, 1 minus 0.07 to the t. Okay. So in chat, the first thing you're going to tell me, is this growth or decay? So is this growth or decay? So is it growth or decay? Okay, and I'm waiting for people to share in chat. Thank you guys who have already shared. Let's try to get more people. We should have a lot more people. There we go, guys. Okay. Right? So it's decay. And how do we know it's decay? Because we have a minus. Okay? So this is the easy way, right? The easy way is like, hey, I can just look and there's a minus, that's decay. Okay? So my rate of decay as a percentage, what would that be? What percentage would this be? Right? So it's 0.07. How would I write that as a percentage? And I just want to make sure they don't use negative. Nope, they sure don't. Okay. Yeah, it's going to be 7%. You guys are baller. Well done. Okay. If people are like, hey, how did you do that? Remember, I'm taking 0.07. I'm multiplying it by 100. I get 7%. Okay. There's my work. Okay. So rate of decay, 7%. That's what's going on there. All right. So now let's take a look at, so you guys, it seems like we're getting that, right? You're like, okay, I can look for the negative. I just, instead of rate of growth, I'm going to write rate of decay, right? All right, we could do that. But then what happens when they simplify things for us? It gets a little bit more difficult. So let's say I have y equals 48 and then 0.76. Okay, now this is going to be a little bit more difficult. So we're going to go through the same process. I'm going to ask, we're going to have to know, is this growth or decay? And more importantly, we have to know why it's growth or decay. Right. Okay. So is it growth or decay? And then we have to, so make sure we understand why, right? So I've gotten people saying decay, and it's decay because this number right here is less than 1. Do you guys see how this is less than 1? right? So that means I don't hold on to my original amount, right? Remember we talked about that, how the 1 means that we hold on to our original amount. This value is less than 1, so we are not getting my whole amount. Okay, we're not retaining it. We're losing. Okay. Now, the hard part, this is the hard part, is how the heck do we get our rate of decay? Because we can no longer just look at it and say, oh, there's the number. Okay? Because I can tell you right now, the rate of decay is not 76%. Okay? Because I bet a lot of you guys were like, oh, the rate of decay is 76%. It's not. So how the heck do we do this? So to do this, right, and this is new, right? So we have to remember it's 1 minus r equals 0.76. Okay, right? That's our equation. 1 minus r equals 0.76. Where am I getting the 1 minus r? It's 1 minus r. So if I want to find my rate, I'm going to have to do a little bit of algebra, aren't I? Right? I'm going to have to get r by itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add r to both sides. So I get 1 equals 0.76 plus r. And then I'm going to subtract 0.76 from both sides. It's 2 steps. But you guys, once we get going, you guys will be like, I can just do both those steps at once. So I'm going to have 1 minus 0.76 equals r. Okay. So 1 minus 0.76 equals r. So what is that? Well, let's take our calculator, take a look. I get 1 minus, can you guys see? 1 minus 0.76. So I get, right, it equals 0.24. Okay, 0.24. So then now I have to write that as a percentage. So as a percentage, right, I would have to take 0.24 times 100 equals 24%. Okay. Now, some of you are probably looking at this and like, whoa, that was a lot, right? That was a lot of new stuff, right? This was all new. But to try to help you understand what's going on, remember, decay means less than 1. 24% is how much less than 100% this number is. So think about that. 76 plus 24 equals 100. Right? So if you ever went shopping, they might say, hey, we have a sale. We have 24% off. That means you're paying 76% of the original price. Okay? But it's 24% off. Does that kind of help? Does that kind of help, guys? When you guys don't interact with me, I'm going to try everything to make sure you guys understand, right? So when I say I have a rate of 24%, a rate of decay of 24%, that's like going to the store and saying, oh, this t-shirt is 24% off. So that means then if the original price of that t-shirt was $48, I'm going to only be paying 76% of that original amount. Okay, so that's what's going on. So I have a 24% off, I'm paying this much. And so when we say rate of decay, it's the amount away from 100%, right? So that's what we're doing. See how it's the amount away, right? Here's 100%, and then I minus r. It's the difference from 100%, and that's what this is, right? So my r is how far away am I from 100%, and so you can think of that when doing this. So I do 1 minus r. That's my rate. Okay. All right. So I know that some of you that might have helped. Others is still going to be confusing. So we just got to keep practicing this. Okay. So let's keep practicing. So we're going to do a couple more examples. So let's do, and we're going to practice the hard ones because those are the ones that are hard. So this is going to be example 3. Okay. So let's say I'm going to give you 2 problems at once. Okay. So I'm going to give you A, we're going to have y equals 5 times 1.07 to the t, and we're going to have B, we're going to have y equals 0.2 times 0.97 to the t. So for each one here, you're going to tell me if it's growth or decay. So growth or decay, right? And then you're going to tell me the rate as a percentage. All right. So I know I'm throwing you guys out there to try this on your own, but I'm just going to give you, it shouldn't be too long. So I'm just going to give you a minute 30 to work on this. And I just want you to try your best and see where we're making mistakes, where you're getting stuck. Because if you see where you're getting stuck, then we can work on getting unstuck. Okay, so here we go. So for each, we're going to do both of these. And for each one, you're going to say, is it growth or decay? And then find the rate. All right, so some of us are going to be feeling good about this. Some of us are going to feel really lost. If you're feeling really lost, try to see where you're getting lost, because I know you're going to be able to do some of these, okay? And always ask questions, guys. Ask questions, ask questions. So taking a look at this first one, right, we're looking at, right, my initial amount is 5, and then I'm looking at this. Is this greater than 1 or less than 1, right? And this is greater than 1. So it's greater than 1. So that's going to be growth. Okay, so it's greater than 1, it's going to be growth. Now remember, when we're greater than 1, this is going to be, right, 1 plus 0.07, right? So with growth, it's really easy to see, oh, 0.07, I'm going to multiply that by 100, and I get 7%. Okay, now, let me know, guys, if you're getting stuck. Are you getting stuck with knowing if this is growth or decay? Are you getting stuck finding the 0.07? Or are you getting stuck getting that 0.07 getting to 7%, right? Those are all places we can get stuck. So let me know if you're getting stuck and how I can help. Now, this is where it's going to get a little bit more difficult because the growth, I think, are easier on getting to the 7. Okay, so right here, I'm going to look at this because this is my 100%, right? So this is the rate that's changing. This is my change. So when you have a decimal, you're just going to multiply it by 100. And that's how you get the 7%. Okay. And then remember that, so the equation for this, right, is 1 plus r, right? So if it's greater than 1, it's 1 plus r. So my rate is going to be anything that's above the 1. So I hope that helps. Right? So if it's growth, you're just looking for everything that is above 1, right? So it's the 1 plus r. So if you get rid of the 1, right, then that's what my rate is as a decimal. And then whenever you have a decimal, multiply it by 100 to get your percentage. This is multiplication, and this is a decimal. This is a decimal. In Europe, they use commas instead of decimals, but yeah.
Okay.
All right, so for this next one, this is going to be a little bit more difficult.
But the first thing we take a look at is this greater than 1
or less than 1? Right? And 0.97,
this is less than 1. So that would be a decay.
Okay. And we have to remember when it's less than 1, that's where
it's going to be a little tricky because now it's 1 minus r. But what makes this tricky is
where did the 1 go, right? We can't just look at it and be like, oh, just drop the 1 and this is what we have left. So we're going to have to do a little bit of algebra,
right? So I know 1 minus r equals 0.97, right?
I know that this on the inside is 1 minus r because it's decay.
So all I'm going to do is I'm going to solve for r. Now,
as you guys do this, you're going to find shortcuts, right? But the thing is, shortcuts are things that you memorize, right? So we don't want to memorize because we'll forget it. So all we're doing is 1 minus r, that's r in here.
So I'm just going to solve for r, right? And to do that, I'm going to start by, there's lots of different ways to start, but I like getting my r to this side, right? So I get 1 equals 0.97 plus r, and then I subtract the 0.97. Okay, so I get 1 minus 0.97 equals r.
And the shortcut is you could just jump to this last step, right? You could be like, I know it's 1 minus this equals r. Okay,
so I'm going to grab my calculator again. And I'm going to get, what do I have? 1 minus, and then 0.97. And I get r equals 0.03. So all I need to do now
is I need to get this as a percentage.
Okay, so I'm going to take 0.03 times 100, and I get 3%. Right? So my answer here would be 3%.
Okay. Yeah. You got it right. Okay, so again, what we're doing here is by adding this next one, we have to think a little bit more, right? It's not always growth. Sometimes it can be decay. And when it's decay, we have to remember that it's just an extra step. Okay? Just an extra step. So I imagine, because you guys aren't giving me a lot of feedback, that some of you got this and some of you guys didn't get this. So we're going to try one more time, right? So the first time you did it, maybe you got stuck and you're like, oh man, I don't know what to do after this point. But now that we've seen it, I'm going to give you guys another opportunity to be like, hey, I can do this.
Okay, so we're going to do kind of the same setup.
In just a second, I want to make sure that, okay. So we're going to kind of do the same setup, but different numbers, okay? So we're going to have, so this is example 4. So we're going to do, let's go ahead and do these ones here. I'm just going to make them up. I don't need the book. So let's say A is y equals 6.8 and 0.87 to the t. And then B is going to be, let's do function notation. Why not? Equals 73 1.68 to the t. So you're going to tell me if it's growth or decay. Growth or decay. And then you're going to tell me the rate as a percentage. Okay, and I'm going to give you guys the same amount of time as last time. So we're going to do a minute 30. I'll give you guys, because I don't want you to be just writing this down. So take a second, make sure you have this all written down, and then we're going to go over it. Or I'll give you some time to find the answers. And again, the point here, because we're still learning, we're spending 3 days on this. I don't expect everyone to be perfect at this. All I want you guys to do is, last time, some of you got stuck. Let's see if we can go a little further this time, right? We're just going to build that confidence, and we're going to get there. So here's a minute 30.
All right, let's take a look at what we got. Hopefully everyone has made a little progress or kept up the progress that they had.
Okay, so looking at this first one, right?
The first thing we're going to say is it growth or decay? And we do that by looking at this, right?
So if I take a look at this, I see that this is less than 1, right? So that's going to be a decay. So we have to remember here, right? That means we're going to have 1 minus r. Well, this is the hard one, right? Because the 1 isn't here. So we know then that 1 minus r equals 0.87. So we're going to go ahead and solve for r there, right? So here, I'll do my work down here. 0.87. So, and remember, you can do 2 steps at once. So I can subtract and add at the same time. So this goes here and this goes here. So I get 1 minus 0.87 equals r.
And then I just do this on a calculator. So let's see here. I get 1 minus 0.87. I get 0.13 equals r, right? And if I times that by 100, I get 13% equals r.
So I'm going to go like this. 13%.
Oh, sorry.
I didn't mean to go too fast. It was too fast with the solving here. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go too fast. Thank you for letting me know. So all I did here is the decay, right? So we knew it was decay because this was less than 1. We know that means 1 minus r. So I just did 1 minus r equals 0.87. And then I added r to both sides. I subtracted 0.87 from both sides. So we end up with 1 minus 0.87 equals r.
And then at this point, right, we just type this into a calculator. Right, I just typed that into a calculator, and that's how I got that.
And you can see it's still on my calculator screen, right? So I did 1 minus 0.87, and I got 0.13. Then, since this is a decimal, right, because this is a decimal, I'm going to multiply it by 100 to get it to a percentage. How is everybody with that? Was that helpful to go a little bit slower and explain everything? Okay. I'm sorry about going too fast. And thank you for telling me that I was going too fast. Sometimes I get excited about math and I just go, you know? So I appreciate you guys being feeling confident enough to tell me to go slower. Thank you very much. Okay. So that was decay. And then remember, the decays, that's the new stuff, right? So it's going to be more difficult because it's new. But like this extra step right here, it's always going to be a little bit more work, okay? All right. So for this other one, I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to say, hey, this inside here, is it bigger than 1 or less than 1? So this is greater than 1, right? So it's greater than 1. Okay. So if it's greater than 1, that means it's going to be 1 plus r. But look, it's nice, right? Because the 1's in here. So I can this is just 1 plus 0.68, right? So this is going to be my r. So growth is really nice because one part of it is just the 1. And so you can just ignore that 1 or subtract 1, right? So it's this minus 1, right? That's another way of thinking of it. You can go 1.68 minus 1, right? Equals r. But the nice thing about here, you don't have to do any solving, right? You can just type that into a calculator, or you get this. Okay. So if 0.68 equals r, right? And I got that from here, right? So we're just dropping the 1 because it's 1 plus r. Then all I have to do is change this into a percentage. So to do that, I'm going to multiply it by 100. So I get 68% equals r. Okay, and then I'm going to write 68% there. Got little dog hairs on my paper. Okay, so again, with the growth, right? It's kind of like if you had to hope for a certain type of problem, you would hope for growth because the growth is a lot less work, right? You're just like, oh, there's the growth rate. It's just right there. But with decay, it's hidden, right? And it's really tempting to be like, oh, my decay rate is 87%, but it's not. Your rate is 13%, and that's 87% of the original. Okay? So it's a little weird, right? Whereas this one, right, it's 100% of 73 plus 68%. Okay. I was just gonna say, like, why don't stores just charge us more? It'd be a lot easier. Yeah, that wouldn't be good. All right. So we're gonna do a couple more examples. It seems like people still need a little bit more practice to feel a little bit more confident about what they're doing. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're gonna do one more set and see how you guys are feeling. See how you guys are doing. Okay, because this is all about you guys. All right, so I'm just going to do one more of these. So this is example 5. Lots of examples today. Feels good. Okay. So we're going to have, and then tomorrow we're going to start working on word problems. We'll spend 2 days doing word problems. So I'm going to have 2 of these. I'm going to have, let's do y equals 62 of 1.5 0.07 to the t, and let's have b f of x equals 7, and then 0.93 to the t. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing. So you're just going to write, is it growth or decay, and the rate. So growth or decay, and then growth or decay, and then the rate as a percentage. Okay, and I'll give you guys a little time to write those down before I start the clock. And this will be the last thing we do today. So just working on that foundation, and then we'll do word problems tomorrow. Do word problems tomorrow. Start on word problems tomorrow. All right, so I'm gonna start the timer here in just a second, and here we go. All right. So that was it. I hope you guys had enough time. Does anybody, like, quickly, does anybody need more time with this? No, we're doing okay. All right. So let's go over this. So again, I'm going to look at this number and see if it's greater than 1. So this is greater than 1. So I know it's going to be growth. Okay. And then since it's growth, I know that my decimal here is going to be the +1, right? So I know that my R is going to be 0.07. If I multiply that by 100, I get my percentage, which is 7%. Okay. And if you're like, whoa, Kraft, you're showing less work, I'm doing that on purpose, right? Because eventually we need to I want you guys to get these done a little bit more quickly, so that you're not spending a whole bunch of time on your homework, right? So we the more we do of these, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I just do this, right? Okay, so I'm purposely not showing less work. Okay, so how are people doing? How are people doing in this class? You guys okay? This number is greater than 1, so it's growth. And then because it's growth, right, it's just 1 plus my rate is everything above 1. Okay, so that makes it really nice and easy for us there. All right, so I'm not getting any feedback, so I'm just going to assume people are doing okay there. All right, for this next one, okay, I take a look at the number inside the parentheses and I say, is it greater than 1 or less than 1? It is less than 1, so it's going to be decay. So we might have to remind ourselves, right? That means 1 minus R, right? So 1 minus R is going to equal 0.93. right?
So remember with decay, we're going to have to do a little bit of algebra, right? So I'm going to solve for r. Now again, there's a shortcut here, right? The shortcut is we know it's going to end up being 1 minus this, right? But I always like to show it this way in case you forget, right? So I can start by adding r to both sides and subtracting 0.93 from both sides. It's totally okay, right, when we're doing algebra to do 2 steps at once. So what am I left with? The r's are gone, so I'm going to have 1 minus 0.93 equals r.
Okay, so there was 2 steps in here, right? I added r to both sides, and I subtracted 0.93 from both sides.
So at this point, right, I'm just going to do this in a calculator. Or you can do it in your head, right?
Because calculator here is actually going to take a little bit longer
than doing it in our head if we know how to do it in our head. So 1 minus 0.93. And I get 0.07. So I get 0.07 equals r. So I want to take that,
right? So again, I just typed this into a calculator.
Maybe I'm going too fast. I'm going to try to slow down.
So I have 1 minus 0.93. Did that in a calculator, got this. So the next step is we want to get it to a percentage.
So to get it to a percentage, I just multiply by 100. I get 7% equals r, right? So then I'm going to take this and I'm going to plug it up here. So this is 7%. So now we both had 7%, but notice the difference. This is a 7% decay and this is a 7% growth, right? So in the book, it's going to ask you, right, if it's growth or decay and whether it's, right, and the percentage. So this is a rate of 7% decay and this is a growth rate of 7%. So a decay rate of 7%, a growth rate of 7%. Does anybody have any questions about that or concerns or like, Kreft, how did you get that? Hopefully I didn't go too fast that time. I apologize about that. I want to go nice and slow for you guys. So just remember, guys, the trimester is we're slowly coming up. We're quickly coming up to the end of the trimester. The end of the trimester is March 12th. So if you guys have a bunch of missing assignments, make sure you guys start working on those slowly, right? Get those done. If you get going on them now, you still can get them done by the end of the trimester. There's no penalty for late work. And if you guys have questions, please let me know. I can do your homework with you, and we can make sure we get all of them correct. Okay, you just have to let me know. All right, guys. No one's really communicating with me, and no one's responding to that, so I'm going to assume everyone is okay. Your homework is posted. It's going to be due next Monday, right? That's when I see you guys next. So make sure you take a look at it. It should be a relatively short homework. Email me if you have questions, or come see me in the morning for office hours. All right, guys? So